Ladies and gents, Home Reaction, this is Halloween special, another one. The Wild Hunt. Are you fucking kidding me? What the hell is this? Is this the same as Witcher? Because I fucking love that. I love Witcher. I love Witcher's lore. I know Wild Hunt somewhat from The Witcher. Is the Witcher modified version? Is it the same one? Is it based on this? Yeah, I'm going insane right now. Yeah, this is gonna be great. Of all the things, this is the one thing I'm looking forward to. I hate that I missed this one somehow. I thought the last one was the last one, I guess. HP Lovecraft, but apparently this one. How many have I missed? I'm pretty sure this must be the last one. Because I'm pretty sure can't be anything else left. So there you go. The Wild Hunt is a 16-minute video. So I'm guessing it's going to be more detail. 10-minute video is like general theme. 60 minutes is like, yeah, this is going to be decent. 30 minutes video is like, damn, this is like documentary level shit. That's how OSP goes. So this is going to be fun. Remember people, if you like my reaction, don't forget to subscribe. That way you can help this channel by helping the algorithm so more people can see it as an impression or whatever it's called, getting recommended on pages and things. So yeah, don't forget to like and yeah, comment down if you want to react to a specific video, like name the video you want me to react to, about any mythology or whatever that is. And yeah, let's watch it.
Halloween, everybody. Now, as you know, I generally do special spooky episodes in honor of the world's best holiday, and more specifically, I usually cover a classic work of great.
As I remember correctly, I think, or am I mixing this up? I don't know. I might be butchering this shit all up. But Halloween started as a Celtic holiday, right? Pretty sure it was Halloween because it's between season or something, and they believe that this is the time where like ghosts are out or something, and when they do this, ghosts stay away or something. It's like, I don't know. In video game, you become a zombie to basically dodge the zombie. Is that the element here? I don't know. I guess that's the simplified version of it, how I understood it. I don't know. Comment down more detail if somebody knows about Halloween. I could Google it, but then again, Wikipedia is like, sometimes it just hurts your brain. So yeah, simplified version, that would be great. Let's watch it.
Horror fiction. Unfortunately, I kinda ran out. I mean, there's more horror books out there, but once you've covered Dracula, Frankenstein, Lovecraft, Poe, and Jekyll and Hyde, the great seminal works of horror fiction start getting a little thinner on the ground and a lot less interesting. Now, I was planning on breaking the formula anyway by covering a much more subtle creepy classic. The Count of Monte Cristo, a harrowing exploration of trust, betrayal, and the transformative poison of revenge. But it's really long. Like, really, really long. Like basically as long as my copy of Journey to the West. So unfortunately, I couldn't finish it in time. But it's probably fine to leave it on the shelf for a year or 14. I'm sure it won't get mad and swear tortuous vengeance about it. Instead, let's dip into folklore and talk
Did she do that? This was 3 years ago, this video. Did she do that? I'm pretty sure I don't remember that. I don't know.
About something really in the spirit of the season. Spirits of the season. Specifically, the folkloric Wild Hunt, a delightfully spooky staple concept in European folklore with suspiciously ancient roots. Now, the Wild Hunt is officially classified as a folklore motif in the Stith-Thompson Index of Folkloric Classification, a thing that I am desperately happy exists. It sounds like a joke from an urban fantasy story. Code E221, E221, we got a dead wife haunting husband on his second marriage. Anyway, the Wild Hunt is officially motif code E501, a ghostly hunter and phantom entourage pursuing an eternal phantasmal chase through the night. Frequently connected with the sound of howling winds and other such creepy nighttime noises, the Wild Hunt invisibly storms through the sky, hunting an ever-elusive prey and often doing very unpleasant things to anyone who doesn't get out of their way fast enough. Plus, if there was ever a year to stay indoors, this is probably it. The Wild Hunt concept was first officially codified by Jacob Grimm of the Brothers Grimm during his studies of German folklore when he noticed a super recurrent motif of a ghostly hunt through the night. Variously called the Wild Hunt, the Raging Host, and the Wild Army, the names can change but the concept stays the same. Where some ghosts haunt individually, the Wild Hunt is a veritable ghost tornado, a screaming storm of the unhallowed dead, forever barred from their rest and cursed in death to ride eternal. And though Grimm was specifically studying German folklore, the Wild Hunt is found all over Western Europe and beyond, even contributing to the American folkloric concept of the Ghost Rider. Yes, that one. Now, Jacob Grimm, a comparative mythologist after my own heart, believed that a lot—
Wait a fucking minute. How do you go from Wild Hunt to Ghost Rider? It's not even same. Ghost Rider is supposed to be like singular protagonist type of guy who's just like, I guess this is a modified American version of it. That makes sense. I guess it's slightly different than the Witcher version, but it kind of like similar, right? Wild Hunt going through the sky and shit like that. In Witcher, it's like much more like a, I don't know how to say this, like very strong role, or like it's like way too powerful being type of thing, like god-like being, which can threaten everything, just way too powerful type of shit.
lot of these fairy tale staples had ancient pagan origins, and while that theory is often a little bit hokey, the fact that a lot of the fairy tales about the Wild Hunt specifically credit Odin as its leader lends some pretty solid credence to that theory. See, back in the Old Norse days, Odin had a ghost posse of his own, the Einherjar, ghostly warriors brought to Valhalla by the Valkyries to eternally train for the final battle of Ragnarok. With Odin and his Valkyrie cohort leading them, the Einherjar ride out onto the fields of Vigridr for the battle that ends the world. And even post-Christianization, Odin and his Einherjar were still a very popular concept. 10th century Norse.
By the way, I don't want to pause too much. Did you saw that, anyone saw that TV show, Ragnarok? I'm talking about proper, like, one of the latest one, who's not an English, it's not an English show, but it's like a, European show that you can watch with dubbing or subtitles, whatever. And it was such a good show until the last episode. I'm not gonna ruin it for anyone, but damn, it was really good all the way until the end, right? Literally the last episode. But I like that, anything besides Hollywood actually making something good, which means there's like more chances things like that pop up. Anyway, like the people who mythology belong to probably gonna have better understanding of it and gonna make it that way, I guess, because that was really good.
Norwegian King Haakon the Good was super into Christianity and spent his life trying to Christianize Norway before being killed in battle by the forces of the amazingly named Eric Bloodaxe. When he died, his court poet composed a poem about his death wherein King Haakon is spirited away by Valkyries and welcomed into Valhalla by Odin. And while Haakon is worried that Odin will hate him for his Christian faith, he instead welcomes him, and the Einherjar honor his warrior's courage. Amusingly, when Eric Bloodaxe was later killed, his equally awesomely named wife Gunhildr, Mother of Kings, supposedly had a similar poem composed where Odin prepares Valhalla and the Einherjar for the arrival of her husband. One can only imagine the awkward dinner conversations. And bonus fun fact, Odin's ghostly host might have been originally based on a real group of warriors attested by Tacitus in his Germania way back in the aughts CE. This group, the Hari, painted their shields and bodies black and attacked on dark nights as a shadowy phantom army to very effectively confound and terrorize their enemies. 8 centuries and a lot of mythologization later, the story of this ghostly shadow army could easily transform into a phantom host in service to Odin. The fact that Einherjar is etymologically connected to Hari supports this theory, although Hari just means warrior, and Einherjar just means those who fight alone, so it maybe doesn't support it that much.
Oh, those who fight alone, huh? This is a really cool name. Right? I like the concept of basically, even back then, like, warriors are, if you really analyze the time where they were like, you would think like, okay, I mean, they weren't walking around with guns, right? The day guns were introduced, or, longbows, let's just say it's fine enough, but mostly guns. People start to become more stealthy because it became a necessity. Before that, it was just like flamboyant colors and everything, knights and crap like that. You can just fight. They can basically sneak around, but there's like, they didn't use stealth that much. Somebody actually being completely black and attacking in shadows, basically ninja level shit, but it's just basically, Metal Gear Solid, let's just say, sneaking around and killing people. That's like, okay, somebody really thought like, screw this. What we are doing, we're killing people. How to do that most effectively? So, ignoring everything. Let's just like use stealth as our advantage. Let's just do this better.
Anyway, while Scandinavian kings at the turn of the millennium loved them some Valhalla, Grimm thinks that the general opinion might have soured a bit after a few centuries of Christianization. In those early days, the Norse gods were still very familiar. They weren't quite being worshipped, but they still had a very strong presence in the social landscape. Many gods were explicitly connected with natural phenomena, like Thor's anger to the thunder or Odin's night rides with the howling night winds, serving as constant physical reminders of these familiar old figures. But as centuries passed in the new paradigm, the old gods became unfamiliar, even demonic. Grimm thinks the Christianization of Scandinavia never erased the old gods, but instead made them unfamiliar and terrifying, personifications of the wild and the unknown. Odin's nightly rides stopped being a glorious battle charge and a promise of a shining afterlife, and instead became a terrifying army of ghosts. And since Christianity promises a peaceful afterlife for the hallowed dead, by extension, that army of angry ghosts has to be really bad news. Grimm puts this really beautifully in a distinctly creepy way. As the Christian god has not made them his, they fall due to the old heathen one. Basically, since good people get to join the Christian god when they die, the unhallowed, unbaptized, or otherwise bad dead fall into the waiting arms of the old pagan gods and join their host instead. But despite this extremely creepy framing, the Wild Hunt is not always strictly an antagonistic force. One folktale begins with a drunk peasant walking home through the woods. He hears the cry of the Wild Hunt behind him and a voice telling him to get out of the way, and when he doesn't, the hunt master crashes down out of the sky in front of him. The huntsman tosses a chain at the peasant and challenges him to a game of tug of war, but when he takes off into the sky, the peasant quickly ties the chain around a nearby oak and Impressed by the peasant's apparently prodigious strength, or at least weight, the huntsman tries and fails 2 more times, and as a reward for the peasant's cunning, he butchers a stag and gives him the meat, and the peasant, without any other way to transport it, is forced to carry it in one of his boots. As he walks home with it, the boot becomes heavier and heavier, but even
It's a stag. Eat it. Like, okay, gold would have been fine. I mean, genius gives you like better, 3 choices of shit. But okay, I guess stag will do.
eventually reaches his house, whereupon he finds the boot is now full of gold. General consensus
shit,
is that
I
this
just
huntsman
said
is
it.
Odin, or Wotan if you want to be old High German about it, and the boot full of gold is probably a remnant of a much older story because it's a little too weirdly specific otherwise. This general format is pretty common in folktales. A mysterious and potentially malevolent supernatural entity challenges the hero to an impossible task, and when they succeed, usually through cunning or trickery, the entity rewards them. But the Wild Hunt specifically seems to have a habit of rewarding people with gifts of gold, specifically gold that doesn't initially look like gold. We'll see more of this later. There's a few other consistent themes about the hunt. It's very commonly framed as a karmic punishment for the people caught up in it, usually as a cautionary tale. The stock explanation for why the huntmaster is leading the hunt in the first place is that they used to be some hunt-happy dum-dum who loudly declared that the Christian God can stuff it because hunting is where it's at, and immediately found themselves bound eternally to the phantom wild hunt, cursed never to rest until Judgment Day or something. It's also generally agreed on that if you hear the cry of the wild hunt, it's unwise to mimic it. It might go pretty well for you. Sometimes the hunt
Okay, oh my god. I know she has used this music before. It's her one of the music she uses. But this music was a trailer of Witcher 3. This is just way too perfect. I know Witcher 3 by heart. I know its trailers by heart. This is one of the trailers thing. I'm pretty sure it's like one of that famous trailer where Witcher goes to hunt that ghost, right? Into the barn. Hunter the Spectre. I can't believe I said ghost.
hunt appreciates your enthusiasm and leaves you some of what they hunted that night, like a bit of moss or an entire human leg. But sometimes you're just getting their attention, which is a good way to get swept up by the storm and disappeared forever. Or both things could happen, like the tale of the peasant who mimicked the call of the hunt and was instantly killed when they tossed an entire horse flank down his chimney. It's also very common for the hunt leader to ride a white horse, which is interesting because Odin's steed, Sleipnir, is very specifically gray. Now, while the base concept of the wild hunt seems to have originally evolved from Odin and his Einherjar, Odin is not always the huntsman leading it. Although Grimm does believe a lot of the supposed hunt leaders are actually just corruptions or bynames of Odin. For instance, several stories describe the hunt being led by a dead nobleman named Hackelberg or Hackelbaron, which seems to be derived from the Old Norse word Hekla, meaning armored or cloaked one, which he thinks is just an epithet for Odin, corrupted and confused into being another figure entirely. But not every hunt leader is Odin. For one thing, a lot of them are women. One common theme says that the hunt is led by one Frau Gauden, a noblewoman with 24 daughters who loved hunting more than life itself, and once said that hunting was better than heaven. In a bout of shockingly well-timed karmic retribution, Frau Gauden's daughters all immediately transform into hunting dogs, and they're whisked up into the sky, doomed to hunt eternally through the night. Oh no! Exactly what we asked for! This is the worst! But Frau Gauden's wild hunt is a little aesthetically different from the Odin version. For one
It is the worst. People need to understand, like, okay, it's something that you want to do, is your freedom to do it. But if you get cursed to do that forever, that's not something that you want. That wasn't the thing that you wanted. Because it's like, oh, look at that. The person likes to hunt, and now the person can eternally hunt in the certain god's field or something. No, that's not what the person wanted. It's like all the options is closed. So it's not the same.
One thing, she doesn't ride a horse, she rides in a carriage. And a common story when she's in charge is that her carriage gets damaged, usually when she rides over a crossroad, and she wakes up a local craftsman and politely asks him to fix it. When he does, she rewards him with a payment that initially appears worthless, like wood shavings or literal dog poop. But when the sun rises, it transmutes into pure gold. Frau Gauden is also said to be
I'm sorry, it's 2 a.m. I know it's like you have hard work to do, you're a farmer, but could you help me with the wheel? Oh, for fuck's sake, fine. Fix the wheel, okay. Here's a reward. No, I don't need a reward. Here's a reward, and just look, oh, great, you gave me dog poop. That's just great. I'm gonna put this in a special place. Goes away and put it somewhere, and just go, oh my god, it's gold.
most powerful around the New Year or the 12 days of Christmas, and sometimes leaves phantom dogs in the houses of people who don't lock up properly. And while yes, a free magic pupper would be amazing, these little guys are actually bad omens that bring misfortune on the household until Frau Gauden returns to collect them next year. Some pretty standard winter is spooky, lock your doors morals on that one. There's another hunt mistress
Call the Witcher.
Found in Alpine folklore known as Berkta, who's quite different from Gauden. Her name either means hidden or the bright one, and either translation makes sense, and she's described as being completely swathed in bright white robes. Berkta, like Gauden, also appears around the 12 days of Christmas, but that's where the similarities end. Gauden is a stately noblewoman, while Berkta is at best horrifically old and wizened, while some stories paint her as physically monstrous with mismatched limbs and animalistic features. But Berkta isn't just another pretty face. She also cares for the souls of unbaptized children, which ties in well with Grimm's theory that the old gods take the dead that the new god won't touch. Berkta also serves the important role of enforcing taboos, like a ban on spinning during the winter holidays or eating anything but fish and gruel on her feast day. And in Bavarian and Austrian folklore,
I don't like this. Nope. I don't like this. Fuck that. I don't like this. Those times, no cities, basically open fields, houses at night, paleo, candles, everything is dark, moonlight, and a figure watching you from a fucking window. I don't like, nope.
she supposedly rewarded well-behaved children and servants with silver
Bolt the
coins.
windows
This
at this
kind of
point.
ties into the same theme as Odin with the boot full of gold, an intimidating figure punishing transgressions but richly rewarding good behavior. Now, Grimm theorizes that Gauden and Berkta are actually both offshoots of a very ancient pre-Christian goddess, along with a third folkloric figure, Frau Holle, who Grimm believes most closely resembles the theoretical original figure. Frau Holle, or Holda, sometimes also called Old Mother Frost, is a generally benevolent folkloric figure who sometimes leads a cohort of phantoms and occasionally rewards people with gold, both familiar traits by now. In one popular story that actually doesn't feature the Wild Hunt, a young girl who lives with her cruel stepmother and stepsister accidentally drops her spindle down a well and jumps in after it, only to find herself transported to an unfamiliar meadow. She finds an oven with bread baking, and the bread asks to be taken out before it burns. She obliges, then finds an apple tree that asks her to harvest the apples, which she does. Finally, she comes to a small house with a friendly old woman who calls herself Frau Holle, and says she can stay if she does her housework. Ever obliging, the girl agrees. Frau Holle warns her to be extra diligent shaking out the feather bed because that's what causes snow back in the real world, and the girl dutifully does her job. Eventually, she gets a little bit homesick, and Frau Holle sends her home with the
Yeah, by the way, careful with the shaking. This is what's gonna cause real snow in your real place. Like, that's like, what the did you just say? Okay, so this is not some, basically, some cave or something that has made me go in some different place. It's literally different place, different realm. That's what this is.
spindle she dropped, along with another gift. Every time she talks, a bit of gold drops out of her mouth. Sounds a bit uncomfortable, honestly, but it's better than what her stepsister gets. When she jumps down the well and tries to earn the same reward without actually helping any of the inanimate objects or doing any of Frau Holle's work, she starts spitting out toads. So Frau Holle is another dual figure. She fits the general folkloric role of rewarding good stuff and punishing bad stuff, often with gold.
Well, it could have been shit, literally, instead of toad, so she should be happy.
She's also connected with spinning and weaving, like Berkta, is sometimes said to be the caretaker of dead children, and leads a host of phantom spirits. She has a festival in midwinter, and the other connections to the season are pretty obvious. She literally makes it snow. It's her job. Many folklorists believe she's a relic from a pre-Christian and potentially even pre-Norse divinity, theoretically predating even Odin and company. So according to Grimm's theory, these assorted hunt mistresses, Gauden, Berkta, Holle, etc., are all offshoots of this ancient winter goddess, which would be dope as hell. Obviously, this is a little hard to confirm, but the three figures do share a lot of similarities: gold, midwinter, spinning and weaving, punishing taboos, and of course, leading a phantom host of the unhallowed dead.
I mean, come on, man. Gold is like everything has gold. Gold is the one thing the world see as money, currency. So it's not really surprising gold is common. Same thing is about punishing taboo. That is the one thing that is common with literally every mythologies. Good and bad morality and all that shit. Punishing the taboo, but isn't that like, this similarity is not that far off, I mean, it could happen. This could be coincidence. That's how, common these similarities are.
Hashtag just girly things. But like I said earlier, the Wild Hunt is not just a German thing. In Scandinavia, it's called Odin's Hunt, which is pretty self-explanatory and follows from the Einherjar origins we already covered. But in Old English, it was called the Herle thing, meaning Herle's assembly. Well, who's Herle? Herle? I barely know her. Okay, anyway. Well, aside from being probably secretly Odin, which at this point is kind of a given, Herle is a legendary king of the Britons, the pre-Saxon Celtic inhabitants of England. According to 12th century English/Welsh author Walter Map, King Herle, modernized from his Old English title Herle Kinning, strikes a deal with a dwarf. The dwarf will attend his wedding, and then 1 year later, he'll attend the dwarf's wedding. The dwarf brings wedding gifts and provisions and is an absolute model guest, and then a year later, Herle travels underground to the dwarf king's realm and spends 3 days at the wedding party. When he leaves, the king gives him a small bloodhound and warns him not to get off his horse until the dog does. Free dogs? wedding ever. Herla and his band leave the Dwarf King's realm, but the hound stays on the horse. When Herla asks a nearby shepherd how his queen is doing, he's shocked to find that the shepherd is a Saxon, not a Briton, and the Saxons have ruled the land for over 200 years now. Apparently, 3 days in the Dwarf King's realm equaled 300 years out here. Some of the men leap off their horses in shock and immediately age 300 years and crumble to dust. Stuck in his saddle and displaced in time, all Herla can do is ride eternally, trapped in an endless unlife thanks to the world's worst case of supernatural jet lag. But Herla's story doesn't end there. This concept of an undead or demonic eternal wanderer was quite popular, and in the 11th
So the dwarf basically screwed him because he knew the dog is never going to get off and he's going to be eternal riding. Why the fuck did he screw him like that? Some kind of like a, old rivalry or some shit? What was that? Or did he rub him the wrong way?
century, French monk and chronicler Orderic Vitalis used the phrase familia herlikin to describe a demonic host pursuing a hapless monk, led by a terrifying masked giant. This was the first official attestation of the French version of the Wild Hunt, which was a bit spicier than the Germanic version. The Helikin leading the hunt was an emissary of the devil himself, and his host of demons hunted down the souls of the damned, rather than being those wayward souls themselves. This demonic figure later evolved into a stock character in French passion plays, and then evolved further with the advent of the 16th century Commedia dell'arte and the introduction of the masked motley figure of the Harlequin. Still a bit of a devilish trickster, but a lot less overtly malevolent than the wild hunt he used to lead. So, the Harlequin stock character is Odin. All roads lead to Odin, apparently. Well, that's not strictly true. While the
Seriously, like everything's getting broken apart right now. The Wild Hunt is Odin, apparently Harlequins are Odin. How many things are fucking Odin? Like, how deep is this lore goes? Like, how many deep root does this thing have? You know? Because I was hoping for something like Witcher level of Wild Hunt here, like some god-like being that's just way too... Because, you know, in Witcher lore, right, there's way too many things that are happening, but Wild Hunt's supposed to be like the top of the top, right? It's just like god-like being, you can just kick anybody's ass type of thing, right? Everybody's just like barely a fucking, mosquito or something.
Germanic Wild Hunt seems directly derived from Odin and the Einherjar, or possibly the pre-Norse theoretical Frau Holle winter goddess. The concept of a nighttime host of ghosts or demons is actually pretty widespread. The Welsh variant of the Wild Hunt is sometimes led by Araun, the king of the underworld we talked about way back when we covered Push. Since we already knew he liked hunting, that part isn't really a surprise, and it's even explicitly part of his job description. He and his hounds hunt lost souls and drive them to Anun, making this a surprisingly benevolent form of the Wild Hunt. It's basically supernatural cleanup duty rather than an inherently malevolent ghost tornado. In some versions, Araun's hunting activity even peaks around the 12 days of Christmas, like Gauden and Berkta. But he's also not always alone. Sometimes the hunt is also led by Maut i Nos, a crone who drives the hounds onward with her constant wailing. Similar to the Germanic version, sometimes she's retconned as a dead noblewoman who got herself karmically permabanned from heaven for saying it probably sucks up there if there's no hunting allowed. Irish and Scottish folklore has the sluach, Gesundheit, a word that just means throng or army, but describes a host of very nasty spirits of the restless dead. Considered really bad news, much worse than the generally benevolent but still dangerous Seelie Fae, or even the actively malicious Unseelie Fae. The sluach were chaotic, unpredictable, and known for spiriting people away in the night, the kind of thing you hide under the covers about. This is another version of the Wild Hunt where the main way to stay safe is to stay indoors, close your windows, and hope they don't notice you. But the concept of nightly ghost armies isn't just a European thing. For instance, Hawaii has the Night Marchers, a procession of ghostly warriors beating drums and blowing conch shells like they're marching to war.
Oh my god, imagine the level of panic. The people who actually believed in that, every time around some day, I guess, they're just like telling the children, everybody just like, go home, bar your windows, just like put your face into the sheets and do not look at anything, do not even move. This night is going to be troublesome. Otherwise, you're going to be swept away by Wild Hunt or something. Just everybody just like kids and everybody panicking. Imagine that mentality. That's just fucked up.
While this sounds a lot more regal and orderly than most similarly spooky ghost armies, the suggested response is the same. Get inside, lock the doors, hope they don't take an interest in you, and do not attract their attention. Not showing the appropriate levels of respect is generally considered a good way to get vaporized by bolts of divine retribution, and in a lot of the cases, the appropriate level of respect involves deliberately averting your eyes and not looking at it. On a similar note, Japan has the Hyaki Yagyo, Gesundheit, the night parade of 100 demons, a folklore motif describing
that? What the fuck was that?
Japan has the Hyaki Yagyo, Gesundheit, the night parade of 100 demons, a folklore motif describing a massive horde of demons, spirits, phantoms, yokai, and basically every other spooky specter in the area. Sometimes it's a little more like an orderly procession, sometimes it's full-on pandemonium, but it's always bad news, and like most other ghost tornadoes, best avoided to prevent death or ghost kidnapping. Now, perhaps the most obvious question at this point is, why do we have so many dang ghost tornadoes? This is bizarrely widespread, and while a concept as simple as ghost makes sense worldwide, a cacophonic horde of the restless, unhallowed dead trapped in an eternal hunt across the endless sky is a bit more specific than dead but hasn't got the memo. Well, the most likely answer...
I mean, it might have started with say similar thing like, I don't know, a group of spiritual beings tore through the sky and just like don't get in their way. Basically, from there on, everything just like become more and more like different change, but that stayed the core theme.
Is kind of mundane. Most Wild Hunt myths specifically describe the hunt as invisible, but very, very loud. Odin's hunt is specifically equated with the howling wind that plays through the forest, which does often sound like howling or screaming. And over in Wales, Adaon's dogs barking in the night sky is apparently, no joke, based on the eerie sound of migratory geese which would fly through the area in the winter months. When the night is dark and full of really loud, weird noises that shake your roof and blow your windows open, it's not much of a logical leap to assume you just got blasted by a host of very inconsiderate, noisy spirits or ghosts. In the same way that thunder and lightning were pretty much universally assigned gods worldwide, creepy howling nighttime winds were also a universal experience, and a good reason to stay indoors on wild nights.
As the riders looked on by
Yep, there you go.
he heard one call his name.
Remember to wear a mask so malevolent spirits get confused. Oh, for God's sake. Yes, 2020, of course. Remember to wear a mask. Okay, wait a minute. In my iPhone, I did that like face detect thing. It's just like, you want to try it with a mask? I'm like, the fuck you on about? I'm going to wear a mask forever? Like, pandemic is gone now. What the hell do you mean by mask? It's like this like permanent thing now? Okay. Full acres, really? Always maintain adequate social distance when being abducted by a phantom host of Jesus. I'm the wild hunt, just take him away. But, give me your hand and... Okay, wash your hands first. Okay, get on the horse. But yeah, wait a minute. Let me put the sanitized sheet there. Everybody keep, hands distance away. Okay, we need to be proper. Okay, you get the pandemic too, yep? Everybody gets it. Doesn't matter who you are, wild hunt, doesn't matter. Everybody gets the pandemic.
Soul from hell riding on a rain.
Someone to Frau Holle that it's a social faux pas to give somebody a dog for Christmas. Okay, there we go. All right. Basically, it's Odin. Everything's Odin, and nothing more than Odin. Maybe some more than that. Maybe something older than that, but something Odin. Basically, it's like basic concept of something. It's group of phantom or creatures passing through the sky. There you go. That's the basis of it. I can see how Witcher 3 took it from there. Witcher 3 is a similar thing. I saw the wild hunt going through the sky. They always mention that. And I'm like, why are they saying it like that? Like, okay, I guess they're so powerful. They're riding it like they are literally playing. But I guess there's a significance behind it. So there you go. Alright, well, that was Halloween special, The Wild Hunt by the channel Overly Sarcastic Production. If you like my reaction, don't forget to subscribe. That will help the channel, so please do that. If you like my reaction in general, comment down if you want to do any specific reaction. And yeah, I'm planning to do reaction every day now. I'm just like at least 2 or 3 reaction like I used to do back in the time. So if you don't get notification, keep checking my channel, I guess. But yeah, I think I'm gonna do Journey to the West tomorrow. I still have like few episodes left, 2-3. So I'm gonna finish that starting tomorrow. And yeah, I'll see you next time.